Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Agent Wealth Network's live podcast, where we help real estate agents and brokers grow their business and grow their wealth. And each week we have a special guest, and this week we have an amazing guest. But before I get to her, Erica Cisneros, that I wanted to share with you a little background about me, that I've been in the real estate industry for over 20 years. What I do is I help real estate professionals become their greatest possibility, especially agents and brokers. And I'm also a top-selling author, and so I have books, and I do some coaching, and I owned a real estate brokerage for about the last 10 years, and grew it from about 125 to 400 agents. And so we have lots of experience here, but I want to introduce to you our guest. I'm pleased to introduce Erica Cisneros, she's a mega broker in Fort Worth, Texas, and continues to build her brokerage with more high-powered agents. And she has an ISA team and converts leads to closing. And Erica, thanks for being on. And how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Good morning. Nice to see you. And I'm just loving that painting behind you too. I'm just
Oh,
feeling
yeah.
those beautiful colors.
Well,
Great.
thank you. It's actually from
Yeah,
Africa, and so it's a painter
really.
from Africa. Yep, and so we have some special paintings, and yeah, and I like those bright colors, and so we have, yellow walls, and so it's all bright because,
Nice. Food to my
yeah.
soul. Love it.
Absolutely. You're a mega broker, and I know you just get leads after leads, and
I
what
love
you
it when
did.
you introduce me. Yes.
and and so and we're going to cover a few topics. I'm not sure how many topics we're going to get into, but you're going to share with us like how to get leads,
Yes.
on how to easily get leads and affordably get leads. You have an ISA team, and even be able to offer to those services even to
Right.
our listeners here, or our viewers, and then how to close any deal with private money. I mean, you're really it because, see, you're not just a real estate broker and it's successful. I mean, you alone did what, over 70 deals last year, and then your team did a whole bunch
Yeah.
more after that. And and
And
then
we've so it's
yeah,
it's definitely been a very, very busy past few years. And one of the things that I love is marrying, the whole agent world with the investor world. And so in the past 5 years alone, we've done over 80 flips as well. So
wow,
lots of yeah, I hope I get to chat a little bit about, that process and that journey, and hopefully it helps
yeah.
someone out there.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Why don't we start with on these leads? I
Okay.
was really amazed the other day we were talking, and you go and you were telling me about all these leads, and you have all these listings, and
Right.
just a whole board full of listings, and you get leads every
Work
day, and you tell me
forever.
about all these.
All this
Yeah.
coffee I've got to drink to keep up. Yes.
And so there's one trick. There's one secret of yours. Use the
Yes.
coffee to keep
Caffeine.
up. And I know you have a good positive attitude, and use God on your side all the time, which is just awesome.
Mhm.
And I love that. And you're aware of,
Absolutely.
you invite God into your life every day. But I was really flabbergasted, floored when you said, yeah, and leads are so easy, and I don't understand why agents don't have lots of leads. And so, can you tell us a little about that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, well, and I think one of the biggest things to understand is how much real estate has changed the past few years.
Uh,
And so the more that we can create auto response tools that reach out to clients and stay in front of them without us having to do the work, the better it's going to be. Just because when a client has reached out for information, I mean, it could be in the middle of the night or whenever, because they're going to do it on their schedule at the end of the day, right? They're going to
yeah.
do it whenever they want to do it. And as long as we have set up some tools that can just say, hey, I've got your inquiry, or hey, I noticed that you're on the site. We're here to help. Looking forward to speaking with you. What's a good time? Just different tools that you can put in place. And I know there's tools that we use, such as Conversion, which is KUN. It's a really amazing online auto conversion tool. Um, but there's basic things that I see agents not doing every single day. So some of
Okay.
those things could be responses for your voicemail, right? Just because how many clients have we lost? just because they couldn't get a hold of us pretty quickly. So they're calling us off of a listing. They can't get a hold of us. So then they call the next agent, down the street. That agent picks up. They're just looking for somebody to pick up,
How do
essentially.
I do an auto response then on my phone?
On your voicemail. So there's
Yeah.
a really cool free tool called YouMail.
Wow.
And it's just a plugin that you can drop onto your voicemail, so that whenever anyone calls, it says, and you could even customize the message. It could say, if you could customize it to respond to whoever's calling. So if Bob Jones is calling, it could say, "Hi, Bob Jones. Erica Cisneros is not available right now, but your call is very important." So it can sound kind of like an IVR system, or it could just be, a very basic voicemail that you plug in. But with the cool thing with YouMail is it'll also auto send a text. So I just saw that I missed your call. I'm really looking forward to calling. Give me a few minutes and I'll call you back, right? Completely free tool. But what it does is, as soon as the client has seen that text message, that auto response text message, they're going to stop. They're going to stop calling every other broker in town, right? Because all they wanted was just somebody to pick up the phone and somebody to answer their question. And so as long as they have somebody. Go ahead.
How do I spell that? YouMail? Is it just capital U?
Y-O-U.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, Y-O-U-M-A-I-L.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's great.
Really cool plugin, works with every carrier, makes life a lot easier. So that's a very basic auto response tool that will capture probably a large percentage of the leads that you're missing out on just because, we're busy. We're out there on the field. We're on the phone with other clients. There's so many things that we're doing at the same time.
Yeah.
This tool helps you convert more leads.
Wow, that's great. And then you mentioned conversion, and I know there's a way to get conversion at a reasonable price, whatever. But how would that work? How does conversion work?
So essentially, what it does is, like I said, buyers are going to do this on their own time frame whenever they want to do it.
Usually in the middle of the night, right?
In the middle of the night, right? After work, when we're off, having dinner with the kids, all of that jazz. So what the tool does is it keeps the conversation going. So it's not just through email, just because who has time? I mean, we're all overloaded in our email box, right? Like nobody has time for that anymore. So I think one of the most amazing things that conversion does now is it's incorporated a text message where the lead drops into conversion. They can see what they're looking for, and then a text message goes out and says, "Hey, is this? I noticed that you were on, this website, and is this for your personal investment, or is it, or are you going to move into? Is this for you?" So what it does is it asks those leading questions that you would have asked anyways, but it's in a little bit more of an organic form. We're not just like sending one email like, "Hey, saw you were on my site. Tell me all of this about yourself," right? Which, can make a client feel a little gun shy, right? So it just kind of one at a time just eases them into the dance floor, right? Until we're just doing the whole dance. So it's just leading questions. And it does it through text message. It also does it through email. And it's been really fun because it's a tool that I've just been a little bit surprised about, quite honestly, at how good it does. Oh, I forgot to turn my phone off. Whoops. How good the tool is at asking those leading questions to keep the conversation going and to identify motivation. So it's been a really, and I've got it connected to my laptop too. So they'll get an auto text from me.
All this technology stuff, and how to manage it. Speaking of how to manage it, you also have 4 sons and young, all living at home. What, the oldest is 13? Is that right?
13.
13, yeah.
I am 34, so yes, all 4 will be living at home. Yes.
So that's incredible. So you can manage all of this business, 4 children, and just in amazing ways.
You can put those auto tools in every area of your life. So even like in cooking, what we did was I found a sweet, older woman. I'm Mexican, so she had to be Mexican so she can bring some Mexican food to the house. And she brings trays of food every Saturday, and the boys are just, living in heaven, heating up their food. And just trying to automate every single thing that's in your life, and it's
Yeah,
definitely a
yeah.
possibility.
And some people maybe say, oh, that costs so much money, or you're successful at doing it. But
No.
really, a couple things. First of all, money equals freedom. And so, you enjoy money because it gives you that freedom to be able to provide for your family and give your four kiddos,
And
that
never
great
cook.
meal. And then never cook. Yeah.
Never. That's the best
And
part.
and so does it cost a lot of money to have her? Like, what is that for the
No, I'm paying her
Saturdays and the,
$150 a week, and she
yeah, yeah.
brings,
Does
trays
she
of, I
bring
mean,
dinner?
literally trays.
Is that
Yeah, they're
dinner?
all dinner. So it's
Every,
dinner. So it's 5 dinners,
oh my
then just a big
God.
old tray of rice and beans, and then breakfast tacos
Oh
that
my
go in the
God.
freezer until the boys pop them into our toaster
So
oven.
how many meals is it?
It's
Five
yeah,
dinners and
no, it
five
ends up
breakfasts, so 10?
yeah, but it ends up being a whole lot more than that just because they're brought in big
Wow.
trays. So, I mean, if you really just sit down and think about it, or even like last night, I don't grocery shop anymore, right? So I automate
Wow.
all my grocery. I don't go into a grocery store ever, right? When 10 years ago, I bought my houses around the nearest Walmart, right? Everything has changed, just like in real estate. I don't need to be by Walmart anymore. In fact, I can't even tell you the last time I was in a Walmart. I was a Walmart freak.
Most people either have a lot of time and not enough money, or they have lots of money and not enough time. It seems
Right.
like you have a lot of time and money. Is that
Well, and
pretty accurate?
yeah, and I think
Yeah.
technology helps you do that. Like I said, when you can
Right.
automate portions of your life, like this morning at 4 in the morning, all my groceries were at my doorstep. There's a better way to do everything, right? And so it's just that hunger and desire to continue to seek and better ways to do things. And I'm
Yeah.
always telling my team, hey guys, I already know. Like this is the plan, this is what we're doing, but I already know there's a better way to do it. So
Right.
and when you come
Right.
up with it, well, let's do this, right? Like let's
Right.
make the changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, any good ideas, let's put them in action. But truly, it's just being open, and I think also humble to the fact that you don't know everything, and your way isn't always right.
Right, right. And like it's really God's way, and it's this idea about starting the morning like with God in
Yeah,
prayer and reading the Bible or whatever your routine is. I teach people to do a joy shop, and where it's really just getting connected with that. And then Christ said the Father does the work, and so
yeah,
we don't have to be doing this. We just have to be asking for it and not having contradictory thoughts, about it. So you have this grace about you, like, hey, this is what we're going to do, and then knowing that God's going to give, and all of us beings are going to, create other things because we're here to create.
yeah.
And so, other ways, like how else do you get leads? So you automate it, and you use UMail, auto responses, you use conversion. Any other things like maybe on that subject or specifically like listings, because you're like the listing queen. How do you do that?
Well, I think that a lot of information is just probably overlooked. So, for instance, one day, there's probably a lot of people, and because what I've noticed was people in this specific area who had owned a long time, they didn't even know how much the area had gone up because it's the historic district. So we're in Fort Worth, a historic district, where I purchased myself a couple properties, and it went from 90,000 4 years ago to 340,000 today, right?
Wow.
So most people didn't even know about that. They've just been living their lives. They're not really, savvy in real estate. It's really not important to them. They're
Sure.
doing their day to day.
Right.
So what we did was we pulled a list for everyone that has owned more than 5 years, who owns 100% equity in the property. So meaning there's no liens against the property, because I know they're probably going to be the most excited about the fact that the values have gone up so much. Right?
Yeah, for sure. And
So
where do you find that list? Where do you get that list?
so you can go off a number of different resources. I will say this, a title company is going to be an amazing resource for lists. So whenever you kind of think about, oh, I need to get a list, this would be a really great list to work. Go to your title company, and they have,
Wow.
I know for us, one of our title companies has given us access to this program called REI Source.
Oh,
And I mean, I can pull off. So on that specific list that I did, I wanted to know, especially because I know the Spanish market is underserved. I wanted to know as who has no debt against their property, who has owned more than 5 years, and who has a Spanish surname. And they were able to give me that list. So
oh
then
my God.
I customized a Spanish letter to that specific group, and I only picked per zip code. Okay, so you can map out the city. Just don't get all crazy. Just do at least one because it takes a
Yeah,
lot of work to do at least one.
sure.
And I knew that handwritten notes get opened. In fact, throw everything away and you put that one right on top because you just can't wait to open it. So
Right.
a handwritten note, a specialized list, and just a very basic message, right? So I think the message went something like, hey, I'm I'm not sure if you know this, but the property values have gone up in this area. Have you ever considered selling? And it was in Spanish. And that was probably one of the greatest marketing campaigns that we'd ever done. In fact, what I'm doing is I'm going throughout each zip code in the city of Fort Worth, doing that specific campaign.
Wow.
And it's amazing because this one campaign has kept us pretty busy. I've only done one zip code so far. Yes, lots of results, but the truth is even I am limited when it comes to the amount of time I have to invest. So that's why I'm saying,
Sure.
if you have an idea like this, or even I've had agents come to me in the Indian community saying, I
Uh-huh.
really would like some leads. My goodness, you have, a bigger leg up than really anyone else in the marketplace because you can speak language. And so think
Right,
about those
right.
different things that really make you a specialized agent. So it
Mm,
could even be a divorce. Boy, I went through a divorce, and so my list is going to be the divorce list. Who've
yeah,
owned over this amount of time, and then I'm going to structure that personal note and make it meaningful and something that's going to have a great call to action. So it's just putting a little bit of thought into it, and then hey, why not bring in if it's just you, bring in 5 other agents to come in and help you. And every time there's listing, you guys can just kind of split it up or take turns or
sure.
however. But you
Oh,
mobilizing people is probably one of the greatest tools that I've learned
mm,
over the years, which is bring people in. Don't be afraid.
yeah.
Don't hog it all. Don't be afraid to ask people to help. They're
Right,
willing.
right. And so not only bringing people agents, but you also did business partners. And in this case, you had a title company that did
Yes.
basically all your research for you. And they're
Oh my
happy about
goodness.
it because then you use the title company. So it's really everybody wins in this. These people that
Right.
own the home win in it, the other agents own it. So everybody that
Right.
you're touching becomes a winner because of what you created and those
Correct.
thoughts that you've created. So, and I think for all of us to be able to just really be clear on what we want and to be general still about the asking, but like saying, hey, I'd love to have a creative idea, kind of a niche in the market, if you will, to develop my business and to grow my business. And so you came up with that idea, and that was, a godly idea, if you will. That was a
Bring it.
godly idea, and you were able to do that. We have lots to cover, and we probably won't get all to it today, and we'll have you back because you're so awesome
Okay. Aw,
and
thank you.
special. And
I love it.
is there anything else on leads before we switch over? I'd like to hear about this inside sales team. Is this another way you leverage your time so that you don't have to be doing all of the work? But
Right.
any other points on leads? This has been just great on auto responses,
Sure.
conversion, handwritten notes.
So
Anything else?
once again, in auto responses, our voicemail auto response, we've got our text message auto response, our email auto response, and so my ISA team really is my live auto response. So what they do is
Uh,
they continue to reach out to clients, continue to ask the leading questions, right? So that we can figure out what's the best path for that client. And ultimately the ISA team's goal is to set the appointment. But to set a quality appointment, right? I want to make
uh,
sure that they're pre-qualified, that they've talked to the lender, or if it's a listing that we understand their motivation, that they're not going to price it $100,000, over what the
yeah,
rest of the area is doing because they have, just unrealistic expectations, right? And so I
Right.
don't want to waste my time doing that as well. So what the
Yeah.
ISA team does is it just kind of leans out your time that you're investing per client, and
Mhm.
then they work to just continue that conversation so that um, as people, may not be responding, like I'm actually subscribing to this really cool tool called what's it called? Bomb Bomb. So
Bon
it's
bon.
it's messages which is a really cool, another auto response tool that I suggest everybody look into.
Uh-huh.
And so what it does is it just text messages me doing videos saying, hey, or if it was like an appointment, I would say, hey, Bob Smith, we've got an appointment at 3:00. Looking forward to it. Yeah, and we're doing a little dance or something like that. And so my
Yeah,
ISA team is going to be utilizing that to lock it in, right? To
that's
lock in those
great.
appointments in a stronger way. And so the goal is just let's get more appointments. Let's do more business all together. And there are some
Yeah,
agents that never going to have the joys of opening the door and seeing the client's first look at their new home. A listing
right.
presentation. They have a better fit in a call center kind of
Uh-huh. Yeah,
environment where they can sit
yeah.
and just they can go through a script and get deliverable results. How many appointments? How many
That's,
pre-approvals that day? That kind of jazz. And so it's just identifying the best fit per agent.
yeah. And you made it was a subtle point, but you made a good point on you don't chase everything and you have to say no. And so, for example, that listing,
Yes.
I just talked to an agent this morning that was telling me about this person they had that listed a home and was way too high. And so and he struggled through all of that. And he said he's not going to do that anymore. So he got another listing, and it was a person way too high. And he just told that person, thanks a lot, but no, it's too high and it's not realistic. So that listing, that seller, went to another agent at a high price for 3 months, dumped that agent, and went back to my agent that I'm talking to and said,
That's
hey,
awesome.
this is, I need you
Yeah.
because you really priced it right. This other guy said, oh yeah, we could sell it for that. We wasted. And he said it was great because he didn't waste 3 months with this guy to finally,
Right.
get him to the right price. So, you're selective at the same time. Now, so you've trained these inside sales agents, is that correct? And you scripted
Correct.
it and everything, and
Right.
so they know on how to do it. And so, is
Correct.
that available for our audience? Can you do that anywhere in the U.S. or how does that play
Yes.
out?
Actually, we've been opening up new opportunities all throughout the United States, helping other real estate teams who are looking for just the similar things that we do. Because remember, it's the same thing over and over. So our ISA is doing the same thing over and over, asking the
Yeah,
leading questions, setting up the appointment, organizing in the schedule for that agent. And so what we've been able to do is just kind of scale that out a little. So we've got
yeah,
some teams all throughout the United States. And yes, I mean, this is definitely something that we want to grow out. It's a service that we've realized was very, very needed in this
yeah.
industry just because agents are, everything to everybody, and
Okay.
they're losing out on some of their best clients just because they can't answer their
Right.
phone.
Now, I assume that there's some criteria or whatever for that, and without getting into that detail, that how would they contact you to do that? Would they call your office or?
Yes, they would just call my office. It's 817-921-3030.
Okay, awesome. You're gonna
My
actually
beautiful,
you're
yeah.
gonna do your writing. Oh, your business.
Uh,
Okay, cool.
I've got my business
Oh, yeah,
card here
back a little.
if
Okay, good.
anybody wants to
Yeah,
just
there.
snapshot that.
Great. Yeah. So just take
Awesome.
that.
Yeah, so just call me at my office and we'll set up a time. And it's really just to determine, what you're hoping to do in the business, what you've done before in the business.
Yeah.
Just because, I think as an agent, you have to have reached a certain number of benchmarks professionally, just like that one agent. He finally realized, hey, I've got to make sure that these
Right.
listing appointments are qualified. So we can't say yes to every client either.
Right.
We
Right.
want to make sure that we've identified that motivation level and that we're not wasting everyone's time. And so that's the purpose of the ISA team, and I'd be happy to
Yeah.
talk to anybody who's interested in learning more information.
That's great. And how much time would you say your ISA team helps with this? That are you able to Do you save, an hour a day, or have you measured that in any way on what your
Yeah.
ISA team can do for an
So
agent?
our Yeah, so essentially, it really just depends on the team that we're serving. Like, we're serving our Fort Worth team. So we have 3 different shifts, and each shift is 4 hours. So we try not to have that ISA team member more than 4 hours, just because it gets a little weighty on,
Sure. Yeah,
on the
monotonous.
day if you've just been making calls all day long. So we try to keep it at 4 hours so everyone stays fresh, stays upbeat, and gives their best during that
That's
time.
great. Yeah.
So just depending on where the team is in the United States, we could fit them into a shift. So it just really
Okay.
depends on where that team's at.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Anything else on ISAs? Anything else that
I
we should
mean,
know?
pretty much it.
What's the
Anything else you
closing?
want to know?
I see. Yeah. What's the closing like? Have you found that, as far as like how many leads do you typically get in, and how many do they close? Like, what do you have any
So
numbers
it
behind it?
it just depends on if this is an old list that they're working, or if
Uh,
it's fresh new leads. So right now we're working a relationship where we're getting all the fresh leads. So every time somebody is interested in that specific marketplace, our ISAs are being pinged, as opposed to another team just wants us to do their old leads. So we just received a list of 2,000, I think it was like 2,700 old leads that they had gotten for 2017.
uh,
And so we'll run through that. So, I mean, the response rates are going to be drastically different, right?
mm,
So converting a lead that is a fresh lead as opposed to an older lead, it's going to be
yeah,
a little bit different. So we're probably talking about 10% of the leads on that large old
yeah.
2017 list are going to be converted into an appointment or some kind of transaction,
That's
just
huge.
because. Yeah, so I mean, it's
Uh-huh.
going to be usually 1 out of 10 that's been dropped out, and and then on the disheartening thing usually is when we go through that super old list 2017, and we say, oh, this person bought, this person sold already, this person, and then you identify all that business that went,
Yeah,
array, and
that
we
nobody
lost.
followed up or followed up effectively with,
Right,
and that's where your
and then it's a little
ISA team
painful.
comes in. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So
for
that gets
sure.
a little bit painful just because the loss of business that you recognize, but it's good for everyone to do, periodically,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
just get, a reality check that you can't do everything on your own.
Right, right. A couple things that some data points on that is typical leads are 1 out of 100. So you got to call 100 people in order to get one lead. And so that's like Realtor.com, Zillow. And Zillow told me a couple months ago that because when that lead goes out, it goes to 19 other agents, and so
Sure.
it takes if you don't call back within 90 seconds of that lead, that you lose that lead, and so with like using the conversion process, are you able to overcome that and be the
Yeah,
first one, if
absolutely.
you will? Yeah, yeah,
Right, absolutely. And with conversion, what I like with that tool in particular is using it for organic. So instead of
yeah.
paying Realtor.com and Zillow and then competing within, those first 15 seconds, and then all of a sudden it's sending out to all these other agents as well,
Right.
conversion really has given you everything that you need to do organic leads, to create these landing pages that are specific for an area. So we can say like historic homes, southfortworth.com,
Mm.
and then, distribute that link to, a Facebook boost post specifically in historic homes in southfortworth.com, distribute
Wow.
that link, and then it converts that lead. So if I just boost it up, I'd rather, instead of paying Zillow, $150 a month for
Yeah.
really crappy leads, quite
Right.
honestly,
Mhm.
which this is the experience from lots of agents that I've worked with. I would just rather pay, Facebook, do a boost, landing page, and then they all drop into conversion.
So basically,
Hot, hot, hot.
you pick your neighborhood and then you get exclusive leads.
You
And so
got it.
when you get the lead, you get the exclusive lead. So that's
You got it.
awesome. And
It
that's
just
a
takes
lot of,
forethought. It's just
Yeah.
forethought.
Yeah.
It's just thinking, you're a marketer. As a real estate professional, you are a marketer. So figuring out how to best capture leads. And you're not, dfwagent.com. No, you don't serve all of DFW. You couldn't even serve all of the south side of Fort Worth, right? There's tens of thousands of homes. Pick something, be specific,
Mhm.
or, fortworthteachers.com or
Right.
fortworthfirefighters.com or whatever that is. Pick your specific group of people or homes that you're going to serve.
Yeah.
Very intentional about it, and you're going to see a lot greater results.
Yeah. And it's kind of like you try to be all things to all people, and then, it's just kind of throwing it up there, the shotgun approach versus you're saying the rifle approach, where you identify what they call a niche or a niche. And
Right.
so, like the school teachers, the fire department, or historic sites. So that's just great. And I know all of us are thinking, right now about, oh, yeah, what can that
Yeah.
be? And that's what we want, because thoughts become things, and this is how it's done.
And those ratios and the Zillow ads and all of those, I don't even subscribe to any of that kind of
Yeah.
marketing, so I don't know the ratios, but the ratios for specific marketing is there's one deal out of every 25 leads is what we've come up with. One
Wow.
deal out of every 25 leads that come out of this specific marketing. And honestly, during a hot season like this, usually during tax time from January 15th all the way through, the end of summer, you're talking more like, one out of every 20 leads. So
Yeah.
it really changes the game drastically when you've been very intentional.
And it's big, and so a couple things on that. That means it's four times, five times better
Right.
than traditional leads. At the same time, I think some of us think like, oh my God, I got to call 20 people to get one lead, and that's where your ISA team comes in. And so
Right.
there's basically solutions to this in order to make it easy leads and to be able to build your business this way. So that's fantastic.
Right.
Um, can you just share with us, you have a great, and I know you're an investor also, and, like you were saying, you flip homes, and I think you just opened up a couple of new condo complexes, and you're all doing all kinds of great things, Erica. And so it's this idea about closing a deal with private money. And can you share with us a little about how you do that?
Sure. Well, and this kind of goes into, you sent me another question on, how do you become an investor without a whole lot of money? And so this kind of
Yeah.
ties into both
Okay, great.
questions.
Good, good.
And so there's a number of different ways that you can do this. Just because there's a lot of investors out there that are a little weary of the stock market, but they got to park their money somewhere, right?
Mhm.
So I would suggest if you're looking into getting into the investor world, start going to some of the investor meetings. Look up on meetup.com, on Facebook groups. There are so many different ways to access all of these different meetings out there.
Mhm.
And when you're there, smile, right? Make sure you're smiling. Introduce yourself and let people know what you're trying to do. And you'll find that you may have all the back end information and the expertise, and this other person has all the money, and all of a sudden you've got a partnership, and there goes your first flip. Um,
Wow.
or another way that you can jump into the investment game and not use any of your money is become a wholesaler. So I did that for years as well, which was, I found a really great deal. I knew we had a motivated seller. Every single listing that I ask or that I take, I always ask, if we got a cash deal today at this price, right, and it's drastically under what they're wanting,
Yeah, yeah.
somewhere between 70% of the value or 80% of the value. If we got
Wow.
this price cash today, can close by Friday. Would you take it? How would you feel about that, right? And then it's always like, well, I'd be in Mexico tomorrow, right? Or yes or no.
Or
As
Hawaii.
is, right? As is, you go away today. How would you feel about that? And then you can kind of just determine somebody's motivation. But when somebody says, you know what, I have a really high level of urgency, I got to get out of this note, or there's lots of things that happen in people's lives that would cause them to have to get out of a property urgently.
Right, right.
And so when you've identified a great deal, what I do is I put it under contract and then I wholesale it. So then I go to my investor groups and I say, hey, investors, I've got a great deal. Pay me 10 grand. Right? And
Wow.
so I never even close on it. I just wholesale the deal. Just because I have insider knowledge, and I think that's probably one of the things that most agents don't realize is that you have insider knowledge. You have knowledge about the neighborhoods, about the comps, about values, about so many different things. You are a real estate professional if
Yeah.
this is your full-time gig, which every agent should be full-time, really,
Right.
because
Right.
there's so much opportunity in this business as long as you're out there hunting and out there, having conversations. Great things
Yeah.
happen every single day.
Yeah.
And so, partner with an investor in one of these
Mhm.
investment groups and offer your expertise and your time
Mhm.
as a partner, wholesale. And then the other question you were saying is, hey, how do you on all of my listings, I market private money available, right? Or owner financing or owner carry second. And the way that I do it is I have partnered with, and I'll show you,
Wow.
it is an organization called American Dream Investors. And let me kind of
Oh yeah.
show you
Uh-huh.
what
That's
they,
good.
and
Uh-huh.
everybody can go online and just Google AmericanDreamVestors.com, or you don't even go, just go onto their website. And what they do is any of your deals that you have, or just say, your listings, how many times have you gotten calls from buyers and they really aren't credit worthy? They've got cash, but they're just not credit worthy, or, they may have not filed taxes properly, or they may be a small business. There's so many small businesses out there and they've got cash to work with, but they just don't have the credit. They write everything down, right? So even real estate professionals are guilty of that,
Yeah.
just writing everything down. And so banks don't really like us. And so this is really for a section of the market where you would have had to deny that client your listing, but now you get to say, hey, well, I've got private money for you, and
Oh,
let's get you pre-qualified with American Dream Investors.
wow.
And it's a pretty cool program. There
And is
is
that national? Is that national?
right now they're in Texas right now, but I know that they have or plans to move throughout outside of Texas. But I
Yeah.
will suggest for anybody who's listening outside of Texas, there is somebody in your
Sure.
marketplace that is
You
willing to
bet.
do something very similar. So you just got to do a little bit extra research. If you're in Texas, your guys are here, and
Yeah.
and that's easy. But I mean, essentially, it's a 9.9 fixed interest rate, 10% down plus closing costs. I mean, all your listings are sold. In fact, I just landed a $2.4 million listing with
Wow.
that specific pitch, saying, hey, well, whoever comes. It may be somebody who doesn't want to put all this cash down, but they're definitely going to have the 10% down. And so, we've got private investings or investors who are going to finance this deal for you. Sign here. I'm your gal.
Wow. That is just fantastic.
Yeah.
Like that just, I think for some of us just opened up a whole new world that they didn't
Right.
understand because
Right.
normally investor that they're thinking, oh, I'm going to have to take some of my commissions and, save it. And in 2 years I could do it. And you're basically saying you could do it today.
Right.
And that is
10%
just
down. Yeah.
incredible. Incredible
Absolutely.
on being able to do that. That's great. The other, I love that you said great things happen today and every day. And for that attitude, just having that attitude and expecting great things to happen every day,
Yeah.
and then they do, and then they do. It's kind of ask and you shall receive, and as long
Absolutely.
as you don't have any resistant thoughts, negative thoughts opposite that then that'll bring, it's all coming to you. It's all coming to you. That's
That's
great.
right.
I know that you have changed brokers, and do you want to kind of just tell me on what situation that, or, what was your situation? I don't know, 6 months ago or whatever, and you're a successful broker, you have agents that, you're growing, and you were looking for a solution there too, right? You were, I think, maybe getting a little burnt out and kind of a little bored or whatever, but can you
Yeah.
tell us a little on where you were with that?
Sure. Well, I kind of shocked a lot of people in my industry this past quarter.
Oh,
They're like, what happened here? So I've been an independent broker for, gosh, over 8 years.
Wow.
Just because once you're a top producing agent, you think, okay, well, the next level of my career is let's get my broker's license, let's get a lot of agents, let's
Yeah.
invest the time, energy to grow a company. And some of the things that I realized as I was doing that was, number one, it took a lot of resources, a lot of resources, a lot of money, a lot of time. I bought a business building to hold them all and hold my meetings and, train them and do all of these things for agents. And at the end of the day, what I realized was, if there were, as soon as an agent was, within their second or third year, um, they started, looking for other opportunities. Oh, there's 100% brokerages out there. Oh, I can get, this for free and all of these different things. And they kind of just forgot that you took them from, $25,000 a year to $150,000 a year, right? You taught them how to fish. And,
Wow.
and so that, especially because I've really poured myself into these agents.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful that all of them are, doing well. And one of the mottos here was, because 8 out of 10 agents drop out their first
Wow.
year, right? So it's a sink or swim kind of industry, and it was not here in our office. We did not experience that, and so
Wow.
we kind of held their hands. We grew them. I had an administrative team, and we provided absolutely everything. And so at the end of the day, I realized in order to grow, I needed to bring on more administrative staff, right? So even more resources needed to come out of my pocket. I needed to hire a recruiter. I needed to hire a full-time trainer so that I could exit out of the training and have a little bit more freedom. And what I started to see is my growth strategy just meant less freedom for me, more responsibility, right?
Yeah.
And a lot more money committed, when I couldn't really guarantee that these agents were as committed as I was, right? I would always say, I'm committed at the level that you're committed. But I was
Mm.
committing everything, my finances, my
Right.
resources, my building, my team, everything.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, I had decided that that strategy was not working for me. And I'm so glad that all of these years of relationship with you, over 11 years of real estate coaching and consulting, really paid off. So that was
Yeah.
that was great.
Well, and so you ended up just taking that. It was Cisneros Real Estate, your company, your
Right.
name, and then you went to EXP Realty, right?
Yeah. So for the first time in 8 years, my broker's license is hung with a company, a real estate company, and it's EXP
Wow.
Realty. And the reason why is they provide something that I would never be able to provide to agents.
Mm.
So they pay agents and me now in 3 different ways. So yes, we get commissions, which we all love and appreciate, but now also we get revenue share, which pays 20 to 40 times more than Keller Williams profit
Wow.
sharing. So it's pretty significant. And we also get stock. So it is the only real estate company out there that is employee owned and agent owned, and it's just really neat. The environment. It's a highly collaborative brokerage where I can get access to anybody. Where there's a really tough commercial deal, or it's a deal over in California, I need to refer someone. We're all over the nation. We're
Yeah.
licensed all over the nation, and so what that does for me is now my reach goes a lot further than it ever
Yeah.
would have before, and I'm able to offer my agents so much more
Yeah.
than
So, and you
than I
have
could
all
on my
that
own.
training and like 25 hours of training, and then
Yes,
conversion too. That if conversion's normally $6,000, and you were talking about conversion, how
right.
effective it is for these exclusive leads in your neighborhood, and then how much is that to get conversion uh,
So, I
when
mean,
you with
essentially
EXP?
the tools that we get with EXP, there's over $25,000 of tools that are provided to us for a basic monthly tech fee of $50 a month. So
Wow.
tools that normally, this business already costs so much money, and for my agents to get these tools, I would have had to pay anywhere from $6,000 to $20,000 a year for these
Per
agents
agent.
to be able to get per agent per year. Which, like I said, I wanted to help my agents produce more. I wanted to, bring on more agents, and it just meant more
Yeah.
and more and more resources, less and less and less freedom for me. So
Wow.
I really love what EXP does for agents, and I think that that's one of the primary reason why there's so much buzz in the air, and even
Yeah,
national news about the company. They're doing
sure.
amazing.
You bet. And then, so your agents are growing their business then too? They're doing more business,
Yes.
and even
So
though
they're
you
doing,
help
yeah.
them so much, yeah.
So it was really cool. I needed a full-time recruiter and I got one in my agents, right? So because we have this concept of revenue share, which is nothing new. Keller Williams compensates their agents for bringing on other agents, so it's nothing
Right.
new.
Yeah.
And so my agents are going out and bringing in key team members, which is exciting.
Wow.
Every single week, it's happening every single week. They're
That's
excited
great.
because this company is just really exciting to be a part of.
That's
And
fantastic.
yeah, and so I mean, it was a great change. I mean, it was definitely, transition that first, those first few days, because you're like, wait a
Yeah.
minute, there's new system, new ways to do things. But
Yeah.
I'm telling you, there's, like I said in the beginning, there's always a better way to do. This was
Yeah.
definitely the better way to do real estate.
That's awesome. And, we're out of time now, but I want to really thank you, Erica. You have been so
Yeah,
helpful. And really, I think all of us now know how to get more leads and how to really get a deal done even when you can't, and how to get the edge by having this private money and becoming an investor without any money. And it's just been fabulous. And in fact, I want to invite all of our viewers, if you go to, it's DOC Hank, so it's Doc Hank webinar.com. And if they sign up for that on Friday at 11 o'clock Central Time, that we're going to share all about that good news about an introduction to EXP so they can take advantage
yeah.
of, just like you did as a broker and the agents did, your agents now are doing, to be able to enjoy, more wealth, those three
Right.
streams of revenue, and it's, just fabulous. So with
I was a
that,
little
yeah.
upset with you that you didn't come to me earlier, quite honestly. But you were recovering, so you get a free pass.
I was recovering from a car accident,
Yeah.
the miraculous car experience that I'll
Oh
actually
my.
show on Friday, and I'll show
Yeah.
some pictures and everything on Friday on that totaled my
Awesome.
car and totaled my body. And so this is Agent Wealth Network's live podcast. Erica Cisneros, you're not only beautiful, but you're bright, girl, and we thank you
Thank you.
so much for everything. And I'm Dr. Hank, wishing you all well-being and more good. Just expect greater things today and every day. All the best. Bye bye.
Bye, guys.